Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another edition of This Week in Master Duel for you. This is of course going to be the weekly news series in which we cover all of the latest happenings here within Master Duel. And today we actually have something pretty cool in client to talk about. I'm actually really jazzed for it. It's going to be, of course, the new rental or loaner decks, rather, for Ranked Ladder. We're going to dive into that, look at some of the other new stuff happening here in the game relating to that. As usual, after we take a look at stuff in client, we are going to pop on over to Untapped, of course, for the Ranked Ladder meta tier list, and then we'll look at Master Duel meta for a couple of tournament top cuts as well. So, yeah, let's dive right on into notifications here, and yeah, like I said, we do have a fair bit to talk about. There is, of course, the Fusion and Link Festival that has gone underway. I have already completed that. I used Salamangreat for my run, and it really didn't end up being that different from regular Salad deck, which is kind of cool. They did notably ban, like, a couple of the obvious, like, really good archetypes, best cards, like Brain Diffusion is hit, Tier Limit's Kick Close is hit, but there's still quite a few decks that you can, of course, play. So they are also re-releasing secret packs for a lot of these more relevant decks here. Relevant, of course, to the new loaner decks for Ranked Ladder. This could be Cyber Dragons, Live/Evil Twins, and then Eldritch as well. Of course, they also added some new gates to help you practice with the decks. I don't think you actually get gems for these, but you do get some cool icons. So I'll be picking those up here shortly. But the main thing that I do want to talk about is we're going to go over here to Ranked Ladder, and let's go ahead and take a look at some of these loaner decks. As you can see, I have actually been trying them out here on Master Ranked Ladder, so definitely going to make a video for each of them too, covering some of the replays and going over what I think of the deck and possible upgrades that I would make to it after having tried it out. So definitely be on the lookout for those if you're eager to see those. But as you can see, there are three, like there are in events, and the cool thing about these loaner decks is that they're based off of products that are actually available in the OCG, which I think is very, very good. These decks here allowing easy access to some fairly competitive, or, relatively competitive decks. Fairly competitive builds of these decks at a pretty, again, relative to the OCG, a pretty cheap cost. I really wish that the TCG would implement something like this, where you could drop like maybe $30 for a deck that's like one, maybe even two steps up in terms of competitiveness from like the average structure deck. Like, if these were available in the United States and, they cost like $30 or whatever, I would easily pick up a couple of these and start going to locals, right? And I think that I am far from the only player who that is true for. So I'm really hoping that Konami sees the popularity of this product in the OCG and in Master Duel, and that we get something like this in the TCG as well. I've seen some people complain that, like, oh, these are all just like rogue, or I've seen some people call these casual decks. None of these decks are casual. Like, these decks can all very easily be competitive, and I've heard people complain that, oh, they're just giving people bad decks. But again, like, it's an introductory product, right? That's what these are for. They're to ease people into like playing competitively, right? I've unironically seen somebody saying like, obviously they were saying like, oh, it's funny that they give new players bad decks in a Snake Eye meta. It's like, well, yeah, you're not gonna give somebody brand new to the game like a full tier 1 Snake Eye list. They're not gonna know what to do with it. I really like these lists in particular. They emphasize a lot of the different various competitive strategies. Like, the Cyber Dragon deck is all about of course, going second. The Evil Twin deck is a good introduction to like comboing in general, and any on a board that doesn't look impressive but can react very well to the opponent's stuff. And Eldritch, of course, introduces the slower, more control type strategy. So let's look at each individual list themselves here, too. Decisive Strike Cyber Dragon. As mentioned, this is, by nature of being a Cyber Dragon deck, already inclined to go second. But of course, as you can see, the way the deck is built here, we have a couple of pretty obvious going second options as well, right? We have the Raigeki. The Feather Duster, I think, is in all of them, to be fair, but we have 2 Lightning Storms in this one. We have a Triple Tag, a Droplet, a Red Reboot, a Thrust. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's pretty obvious, and of course, with, again, being a Cyber Dragon deck, it's pretty obvious that this one really likes to go second. One thing that I think is pretty notable, and one thing I will make a minor complaint about this, like, 2 Maxi and 2 Ash Blossom is a little weird. Again, I know the intent is for, again, much like structure decks in the US or in the TCG in general, right? The intent is to buy multiple copies of this product and then, you know, form that into a cohesive deck. So that's kind of why I say you need to buy 2 of them, because again, the one by itself is, well, one, you only get 2 of each, like of stuff like Maxi and Ash Blossom, but you also don't have a full extra deck. That is probably my other biggest complaint about these decks, that they're 10 card extra decks. But again, I also understand that the point of the like IRL product, the OCG product in particular, is to like start you off with this, get it used to it, and now you have 5 extra deck slots open to put in stuff that you might find is like really handy, right? I again kind of would prefer to just have a filled out extra deck, but I'm also far from a new player. I've been playing this game personally since like Pharaoh Servant came out in the TCG, which is like the end of 2004. So yeah, that's a perspective that I haven't had for quite some time. But I don't know. Again, I think these are like fairly well designed as products. As a deck, this is definitely not the most fleshed out like Cyber Dragon deck. To be fair, I'm not like a Cyber Dragon main or an expert or anything, but from what I've seen of lists and from what I know of the deck, you could obviously have it more optimized than this. This one does seem particularly focused on the Power Bond strategy, and even though Cyber Dragon in general is a going second deck, the Power Bond strategy is pretty good for going second. I still think there are overall better ways to play Cyber Dragon. We do also have the Infinity here though, which is pretty nice. I have had at least one game where I was able to kind of use Infinity plus my remaining stuff like, you know, your call buys, your droplets, your imperms, that kind of thing, to just like take control of the game. So there is that as well. But overall, like, I think that all of the stuff that you would expect to see is here. Of course, we have not only the Cyber Dragons with the Galaxy Soldiers, Regulus. We have, again, not max copies of important stuff like Hers, and Noshter, but again, they are here, and also, again, if you would be buying multiple copies of this deck IRL, then you would have all the stuff you need there. It's got a very, very minor Cyber Dark package. It's exactly Realm for Chimera to add exactly Power Bombs, or Power Bond, that is. So, yeah, not a full Cyber Dark strategy. Again, it is mostly focusing on doing the summon a big Cyber and then swinging for lethal general game plan there, which, again, you know, is not a terrible one. I will say that I think of the 3 ranked loners, I think this one is the weakest. Not just because I do think, well, I don't even know if I think Cyber Dragon is inherently weaker than like Eldritch, for example. I think that Live Twin / Evil Twin is definitely the best of them, and is also the most like powerful and consistent archetype of the 3. But I think mainly, again, for the build that they chose to go with here, I think that makes it slightly weaker than the Eldritch deck. But again, not a horrible deck, not by any means. So, all right. So if I think Eldritch is number 2, let's go ahead and take a look at that one next. And I know. Before everyone says it, because everyone's already saying it, they get 2 Extrav. They get 2 Extrav. Konami loves the Floodgate deck most. No, not quite. Yeah, I don't think this is a big deal. I don't think this is a sign of anything. The reason that Extrav is at 2 copies in this deck is because it is at 2 copies in the OCG. I also don't think it's unfair for exactly this one loner deck to get to have 2 Extrav in Master Duel, while every other deck has 1. I think that's completely fine. Again, because we're on a 10-card extra deck, it's like not even optimal here. Like, in that regard, like, it's not optimized in that regard. So, but again, to be fair, the second Extrav is more about opening one of the 2 copies as opposed to drawing 2. Although, also to be fair, in an Eldritch deck, this is probably the style of deck where you're most likely to resolve both Extravs. So, who knows? Yeah, I think this deck is very competent as far as like you know, the Eldritch archetype goes. My major complaint with this deck is that we're only on one of each Banshee and Zombie world. I think if you were going to lean into that strategy, you should have more copies. But again, as always, it's understandable that you would put in more copies when you pick up multiple copies of the deck, right? It does, and I think the other one, the live one, does play Cosmic Cyclone. I've been very vocally against this card. To clarify that as well, like, you know, a deck running Cosmic Cyclone can do well. I'm not saying that Cosmic Cyclone in your deck automatically means that your deck is bad, but I do think that every list in Master Duel playing Cosmic Cyclone in Best of One is non-optimal for the fact that they are playing Cosmic Cyclone. But anyway, you know, obviously, again, that's another kind of card that I think is intended to be when you buy multiple copies, you maybe take this card out and put it in your new side deck, you know, so that kind of a thing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, though, I think this deck is honestly fairly competent overall, not just even for a loner deck, but like in general. If this card had like literally any 5 cards in the extra deck and I came up against this on ranked ladder, I'd probably be like, oh, the ratios are a little weird, but this makes sense, you know, to see on ranked ladder. So, I think the weirdest stuff here might be like the Lightning Storm. Again, the Cosmic Cyclone's a little odd. Foolish Burial Goods, I understand, but you don't quite need the Eldritch cards in the graveyard that badly. You can just like normally draw them and be fine. But yeah, like I said, I don't really have any complaints. Like all the extra deck stuff that is most relevant for the deck is here, including the Dogmatica Punishment target, so that's pretty cool. I know it is a Floodgate deck. It does have the Floodgates, but you know, I don't. I've seen at least one comment I can remember off the top of my head that had like misgivings about the fact that they would even have one of these be like a stun deck with Floodgates in it. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I hate stun. I hate playing against it as much as the next person. That said, I can acknowledge that the existence of stun does mean that the meta ends up being more diverse. Not just because stun is included as another deck in the meta, but stun, like people say, oh, stun doesn't keep combo decks in check. It doesn't, but it keeps deck building honest, right? Like I know a lot of people complain about like, oh, Super Heavy Samurai, oh, Snake Eye, they're just 20 combo pieces and 20 hand traps, right? Well, if stun and control and back row decks in general didn't exist, then that would be literally every deck ever, because you would never have to consider playing stuff like Feather Duster or just outs for back rows in general, or even having to have a deck that's good against that kind of strategy, right? Again, you could just jam all your combo pieces and then jam all your hand traps for your opponent's combo pieces. So, whether you like it or not, honestly, I do think that control/stun decks are not only an aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's here to stay, but also a relatively important one. Now, that said, I do think it is good they've been limiting the floodgates. I'm not saying, oh, stun is good and healthy for a diverse meta, so bring back all the floodgates. No. I think that, you know, decks like this, right, that exist in this style of incarnation are a good spot for these slower back row based decks to be, so. Again, very, very competent deck, honestly. And finally, what I consider to probably just be the best, although to be fair, I actually haven't tried this one out yet. I have played both the Cyber Dragon and the Eldritch in Ranked Ladder, and I have the replays already set aside for those, but the Evil Twin Sprite deck I've not played yet. I was kind of saving this one for last, because it's the one I'm most familiar with. Looking at this list here, it's honestly pretty good, I will say. Like, again, obviously for what it is, for a beginner style, or rather an introduction to competitive play deck with a not full extra deck. I think, I don't know. You know, for the other two builds, I had like a major gripe about the build, and I don't know that I do for this one. I mean, it does play Cosmic Cyclone, which I wouldn't play. Duster, I wouldn't play, honestly, in the main deck in Best of One anyway. But, again, this product was made for OCG for, well, I guess they have Best of One as well as Best of 3. But you know what I mean. It was made for paper play, so it was just ported over to Master Duel here. But this one, I think, is like, this one especially, you could just buy 2 of this deck and you would be 100% good to go, right? You would have your other Sprite Blue, you have another EMP Meownade, you would fill out on your Seas and Ash Blossoms. It already comes with Call By and Crossout and 2 Imperm, and you have a Droplet here. You get like all the Sprite stuff. Remember that Elf is banned in the OCG, which is why it's not in the extra deck here. This one has an IP Masquerena. I think literally the only thing that this, like, if you were to buy 2 copies of this deck, I think just about the only thing you would be missing is like SP Little Knight, and then maybe like Nightmare Griffin or something, but or like an Abiru if you want to play that. But no, I think that this is by far the best one. Well, I say by far, but I think it is kind of close between this and Eldritch. I think those two are definitely both better than Cyber Dragon, but not only is this very well built for what it is, but again, like if I saw this on Ranked Ladder and, you know, it had a filled out extra deck, I would again think, kind of weird ratios, but yeah, this is not totally unexpected to see on Ranked Ladder. So I'm a huge fan of these. I think this is a fantastic idea. I really hope they do this more often, both IRL and in Master Duel. And again, I personally very much hope that these loaner decks end up coming to the TCG as well. Again, I can tell you, like, personally, if I saw those at like my local Walmart tomorrow for like $29.99 each, I would snap pick up 2 or 3 of them and just like start going to locals. Like I would 100% do it. So Konami, if you're listening, you should probably do that because I'm not the only one. But yeah. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below if you would also pick up one of these loaner decks and start playing in paper if given the opportunity. So that's all the major stuff to talk about here in Client. We do have a couple of other things here. Let me go to full screen real quick and pop on over to Untapped. We're going to take a look at the Ranked Ladder meta, as well as, of course, some tournament results here. Oh, we also have the official in-game usage stats to look at here in a moment as well. So, all right. I don't know that the Ranked Ladder tier list here looks too unexpected. On Untapped, we do see Monadium still at the top, but although by 0.1%. We discussed this last week, I believe, but Monadium having the best win rate doesn't inherently mean it's the best deck. You do have to kind of weigh the popularity as well. Again, when a deck only has 1.5% popularity and has the highest win rate, it's pretty easy to guess that a lot of like people who are experts in the deck are contributing to this score. However, when you look at Snake Eye, which has an over 20%, almost 25% popularity rating, and literally only 0.1% lower win rate, you know, with so many more people recorded playing this deck, there are notably more, 20 times as much more almost. You got to figure that there are fewer experts and more people making misplays. So the fact that in spite of that it still has the same win rate is actually kind of astounding for Snake Eye. It's funny how like when Rescue Ace came out, we were like definitely off a tier 0 meta, and in fact we saw Snake Eye go below 20% popularity rating, and Rescue Ace, I think it was at like 19 point something, and then Rescue Ace at like 14, 15 point something. So it was, for a minute there, it was pretty even between Rescue Ace and Snake Eye, but it seems that the new deck hype has at least somewhat died down for Rescue Ace, and I think a lot of those players have gone back into Snake Eye. So but 11% is still definitely nothing to sneeze at here. Same for tier limits. I was going to say, I knew there was another deck that had like 10+%, and excuse me, tier limits is also definitely up there in popularity rating, mostly due to the Horus package. I actually wonder what it's at here. Let me take a look for popularity percent. Okay, so yeah, almost 50. That's about what I expected. About a 50% play rate for the Horus package in tier limit, but it's not even just because of Horus though. Tier limit does have a pretty naturally good matchup against a lot of the decks in this meta. A lot of the decks are fairly graveyard reliant, especially one pretty sneaky deck in particular, right? So being able to play the Shufflers is really good. And also just having that non-linear gameplay, I think, especially in Master Duel, in Best of One, where you can't always rely on just going for your like stock standard combo line. It definitely helps to be more flexible, and tier limit is nothing if not flexible. So what is the next most popular deck after that? Is it really Salamangreat at 6.1%? It looks like it is. That is absolutely new deck hype. I would be shocked if that stays like above 1% within the next couple of months or so. I'm personally happy to see it, don't get me wrong. I love Salamangreat, and I do think it is a very good deck. I think this deck is actually pretty slept on. Like, I think I said this last week too, but a lot of people would call Salamangreat a rogue deck. I actually think in terms of power level, it's probably in tier 3. Like, it's very solid. The thing is, though, and I talked about this in my Salamangreat deck profile, I don't know how many people are actually doing, like, using the deck to its full power. I guess I could look here. Okay, Pyro Phoenix's play rate being at almost 80% does make me feel a little bit better. Because again, when this deck, when the pack first came out, you know, and I was doing my research, I saw a lot of people talking about doing like the safe combo line that plays under Nib, and all you get is like Raging Phoenix plus like one of the trap cards. But you can end on so much better than that. So much better than that. Yeah, again, I would be shocked if this stayed this high, but I'd be happy if it stayed that high. And I really hope that Salmon Grade does end up getting the attention that it deserves. I'm actually a little shocked to see Cashiera this high in win rate. But yeah, next most popular deck looks like is going to be Lab, Pearly, Mathmech, Branded Despia, all hovering around the 3.5% range. So yeah, I mean, as far as like play and win rate, things are about where I would expect them to be right now for Ranked Ladder. All right, like I said before, we did have an update to the official in-game card usage and win rate report. This is post-SP Little Knight, which we'll see right over here. As always, I'm ignoring the figures for Maxi and Ash Blossom. They're irrelevant. These cards are played in everything. We know that. We can make jokes about, oh, Maxi is most going up in popularity, but it's really, realistically, not any less than it's ever been. SP Little Knight, on the other hand, debuting in the game with 67.3%. Not unexpected, but wow, that is still extraordinarily high. That is kind of wild to see. But again, is entirely expected. Little Knight is, of course, entirely generic, and it's not even like you have to play IP for this card to be good. Like, you can just make this on your turn and then pass over to your opponent and just leave it up and still get the second effect, and that's still pretty good. Definitely not a shock to see this card as highly played as is. In fact, if we look at IP Masquerena, 47.5% play rate is definitely a noticeable jump up from 37.1. That is a 10% increase. But despite that, that is still 20% less often than SP Little Knight is played. So definitely quite a few decks out there that are on Little Knight without being on the IP. But again, of course, it does make sense that we see IP's popularity rating going up in turn alongside of the Little Knight release. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense here. Doesn't look like there's like any amount of really significant shifts for a lot of these staples. Some of the Snake Eye extra deck stuff looks like it's like barely going down in percentage, like maybe a couple. Which might be a sign that, like, I don't know, some people like myself, honestly, are starting to get a little bored with Snake Eye, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm like bored with Snake Eye, but after playing it so much for all the Challenger Cups, I'm definitely still in the mode of like, yeah, I'll take a break from focusing on this deck, right? Yeah, I mean, down here too, we see just a continual dropping of... Wow, Original Sin actually went down by a fair bit, 37.4 to 29.6. I wonder if this was... See, okay, this is actually something I was thinking about recently for the popularity or like the usage ratings, right? I wish it showed the number of copies, like the usage rate per number of copies, because I see Original Sin was 37.4 and now 29.6, but I almost can't help but wonder if that's people who were on 2 going down to 1. But me, I'm just thinking that because that's what I did when I was experimenting with Snake Eye post-ban list. Who knows? That one in particular is pretty high. All these other ones are like fairly tame as far as like how much they're dropping. So yeah, that Little Knight, it ends up being a pretty good card. I don't know if you knew that, but SP Little Knight's pretty good. All right. Let's see here. Yes, we have I think just 2, right? Yeah, 2, just a couple of tournament top cuts to take a look at here. First one is going to be for the Factory Cup. This one was only 32 players, but it was an invitational. Taking all of the best players from the past few Factory Cup tournaments. And I thought it was pretty cool that it actually ended up being a wand by Monadium. Not just any Monadium, though. Monadium branded. This is a list we've seen in tournament top cuts a couple of times now. And it's one I keep meaning to check out, but I keep forgetting to. But, yeah, it seems like a very, very cool variant. I would love to know, like... Because really all it adds to the main deck, it looks like, is the Fairy Tale Snow, the Albaz, and then Branded Fusion. Monadium already sometimes plays the Bystials. I imagine we play the Bystials, though, because we're on branded stuff as well. But Yeah, I mean, the ability to pivot into, of course, the Mirror Jade, but also Sanctifier does seem incredibly powerful. So definitely pretty cool there. And then here in second place, we have Trap Tricks. So a couple of cool kind of off-meta stuff, getting first and second. In an invitational tournament too, especially one where Snake Eye, Rescue Ace, those two decks saw the most popularity. Here we have Trap Tricks, even on a bottomless trap hole, which is pretty cool. So I saw this, and the funny thing is, if you're up against Snake Eye and they have Temple up, and they use Flamberge to summon multiple of the little Snake Eye monsters, I think you can bottomless trap hole and banish them all, because I'm pretty sure, like, as soon as the summon has resolved, the field spell buff will take into effect, and that's when bottomless trap hole checks to see if it can activate, right? If I recall correctly, that should work. Although I've never like seen that exact interaction happen. I think from just like playing bottomless trap hole back in the day, I'm pretty sure if a monster comes in buffed due to a continuous effect like a field spell, then you can trap hole it if it meets the attack point requirement. Bottomless trap hole not only banishes, but it also hits monsters that are summoned. So if multiple are summoned at the same time, again, you can hit them all. That's a pretty cool tech if that is indeed how it works. I think it might be why they're playing this card, because they are on the D shifter as well. Also, Trap Tricks, of course, only needs to play a single copy. The effect is searchable via the Rafflesia as well. So I think it's Rafflesia is the one, right, that yeah, you send one and then copy its effect, so that's pretty cool. Here we do have Snake Eye taking 3rd/4th place here. An all-link build, but with no cashiers, which is actually what I've kind of been considering trying myself, so I might look at something similar to that. And here we have another cool deck doing well in this invitational. This one is going to be Shaddoll. It's not even Shaddoll tier limit, it's not even Shaddoll branded, it's just pure Shaddoll. Which is really, really cool. Not something you expect to see a lot of the time. So that's pretty sick. It's really sick to see, one, an invitational tournament, so you know the players are going to be good. Two, one with mostly Snake Eye and Rescue Ace, and then yet still have so much off-meta here represented in the top cut. And if I recall correctly, the same is going to be true of the Master Cup here. This one wasn't an invitational tournament, but the Master Cup number 45 was 60 players, pretty solid size, and I think does have some pretty cool decks here, if I remember right. It was won by Snake Eye here. Aban. I see this person's name all the time, so they must be a very, very good player. They're rocking Kashiras with a full link except for Baron extra deck. Here is Rescue Ace. Maybe I was just thinking of the last tournament there. But we'll keep looking here. Rescue Ace with the Super Polys. Makes sense, makes sense. Yeah, I must have just been thinking of the last tournament there, because now we're just seeing all the Rescue Ace and Snake Eye up towards the top of the top cut here. Not that there's anything wrong with playing those for tournaments, of course. Like, wow, well, go figure. You want to win a tournament, you brought the best deck. But yeah, no. Got another Rescue Ace list here. And another Snake Eye here. This one also not playing Cashiers, but also not playing Synchros. Again, something I've been considering, a change I've considered making to Snake Eye relatively recently here. Okay, here we have Lab. Looks like a fairly standard looking Lab build here. Followed by Branded Despia. They are on the Gimmick Puppet package. Makes sense because this was best of 3 with side deck for this tournament. Another Rescue Ace list in the top 8 list. And Vanquish Soul. Good old Vanquish Soul, always sneaking in there. Alright, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for this edition of This Week in Master Duel. Thank you, as always, as ever, for watching. It does mean a lot that you watch all the way to the very end of the video. And again, let me know what you think of those loner decks for Ranked Ladder in the comments below. I think they're really cool. I think it's a fantastic addition for both the OCG and Master Duel that I would love to see in the TCG. But what do you think? Again, let me know. That's going to be all, though. This is Hexlex, so let's move on to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details, again, will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.